Everyone was shocked to see who she went to the prom with. From the very start, Jessica Parker, a poor girl, didn't appeal to the popular boys at her new elite school, where she was brought in by pure and unbelievable chance. How could someone like him look at her? LOL. Maybe he has 10 vision. First, I'd like to pass along a statement to the author of this post on Twitter. Sandra Polos, be jealous in silence, wench. Well now, let's get to the point. I came across this story thanks to a tweet in which an anonymous user posted a story about Jessica, the main character of our video today. In doing so, this user also put their WebMoney wallet in the post to donate to Jessica's foundation. Supposedly it was Jessica's mom who was cashing in on her daughter's success, but that's not the point. So where did the tale of our next Cinderella spin-off begin? Jessica Parker moved to town from her neck of the woods because of her mother, who lit a cigarette in bed and burned down their entire ranch, which they inherited from Jessica's grandfather, Joe Jack Gray. According to her mother, the now burned farm was the only harm she had sustained from cigarettes in the past 43 years. The girl was just about to get mad at her mother when she realized that there was actually nothing she didn't like about the prospect of leaving this dump. She and her mother moved into the apartment that was given to them by her father, which leads us to the conclusion that they had done absolutely nothing on their own and lived at the expense of their deceased relatives, whose mortality rate had doubled over the past 10 years. The apartment, of course, was a mess, and since everything was burned up in the fire, they had no money, because in the 21st century, no one in their right mind would keep their money in the bank, clearly. Jessica had to walk around in ragged clothes she got at the fair after a fight with some homeless man. Jessica wins! Anyway, her new classmates quickly noticed this and apparently had nothing else to do, so they thought of nothing better than to stalk Jessica. The smartest of them all, Sandra Polos, Googled everything and found out that Jessica was, wait for it, poor, which caused the whole class to start abusing her by calling her a hobo, and people passing by to stop and laugh in her face. 1-719-345-678, 1A Colorado Center. This is Sarah Paulson's number and address if anyone needs to get in touch with her right away. Don't thank me. One day, the not-so-nice boy who used to make fun of poor Jessica all the time suddenly came closer to her than usual. He started smiling and getting all shy. Jessica got nervous. She didn't know what to do. She was completely stumped, and you could tell. She thought, wait a minute, did that creep want to say he likes me? Ugh, God. Luckily, he just wanted to apologize, especially to forgive him for bullying. He said he was going around now apologizing to everyone he'd been bullying and humiliating over the years. All because his band, the Flickering Lights, and he would soon become famous. And that the last thing he'd want was for scandals from his past loser life to resurface after he became a star. Jessica made the decision to forgive him for one simple reason. She knew it wouldn't work out for this jerk. But she wasn't a stupid girl, so as a precaution, she took a ticket to the Flickering Lights concert from him. This is where things could have ended. Jessica would have continued to have been bullied. Her mother would have continued to smoke in bed. Fire would continue to consume everything around her, and her grandfather's story would repeat itself again. But all of a sudden, from out of nowhere came her knight in shining armor. That was Charlie's nickname at G-Dragons. That's where the lovebirds first met. Today, Charlie is celebrating their 1-year anniversary, where Jessica is celebrating their 1-month anniversary. It's just that Jessica found out about their relationship 11 months later than Charlie did. Even though the couple had known each other for a long time, Jessica didn't want to go public with the relationship. They weren't exactly alike. She could tell the difference right away. There was something about his look, his voice, his way of talking that overpowered her. Plus, he was a level 456 and she was only at 123. A world of a difference, Jessica thought. But the guy wasn't paying attention to numbers and their marital status. He just knew she was the one. Every day, he would pick her up in his car. Jessica didn't really know much about cars, so her description was quite vague. The car looked good, I would say even upscale. But the color was boring, gray and mediocre, just like Charlie. The boy always waited 2 miles from school for her at Jessica's request. He didn't understand why she'd ask him to do this. She doesn't know that I'm insanely rich, does she? No, surely not. Otherwise, things would have been going completely differently. The boy had never thought so hard before. He was trying to understand, just understand. As Charlie debated himself on the value of life, he realized that it was useless. His father didn't teach him the value of anything that had less than 6 zeros at the end of it. Jessica walked slowly and casually towards him. She was quite a ways away from him when someone hugged her from behind. The embrace was warm, tender, and loving. Jessica immediately recognized him as a pervert. "What the?" She elbowed him in the lower abdomen and ran to the car. Charlie waited until she had dealt with the stranger man and then called out to her, "Hey, Jess!" She waved and smiled at him as she struggled. That look made Charlie remember how she saved him from the reptilians in G-Dragons. Beautiful as ever, he felt he loved her more and more every day. He had a ring in his pocket. He had already made up his mind about everything and was just waiting for the right moment. And finally, one day, a little later, not now, he would get his chance. As Jessica was walking up the stairs, she heard a noise coming from her apartment. As she walked in, she saw her mother, a couple of suitors, and Aunt Myrtle sitting at the table. It was a dreadful sight. She had no idea what Aunt Myrtle was doing there. They were all drunk and out of their minds. The men from the company started hitting on Jessica. "Hey, baby girl. Yo, baby girl." They didn't know Jessica's name. Jessica screamed, and Charlie burst into the apartment. He took her with him. On the way, in the car, they were both silent. It became hard to breathe, and Charlie lost control of himself. They both played the silent game, and the strange sound Charlie had made caused them both to burst into laughter. They decided at Jess's apartment to move in and live together. Jessica packed her things and said goodbye to her mother. This was only the first stage of her new level in this game. Driving up to Charlie's apartment, the neighborhoods were changing very quickly. You could tell they passed through all the levels of life until they reached the highest level. The highest level. The voice in Jessica's head sounded as if it was from a game. That's how she perceived her life. Charlie's apartment was, at first glance, very cozy. As she entered the apartment, she accidentally broke a vase with her bag. Turning to Jessica with a smile and a bulging vein in his forehead, Charlie confronted her. "It's okay, it's okay." At that moment, Jessica had no idea how much that vase was worth. Spoiler alert, $300,000. Jessica's clothes were completely tattered, now covering only the uncensored parts of her body. Charlie decided to take her shopping and said that he wouldn't take no for an answer. "My parents' money is my money, and my money is your money." Jessica didn't even really want to say no. At the store, she picked out all the things she liked. She considered that it might have been too much, but then she changed her mind. She didn't even know that she was choosing the most expensive things in the store. At that moment, she discovered two of her talents at once, that of a good stylist and that of a good thief. Charlie was thoughtful and asked all the employees beforehand to avoid mentioning the prices, and he paid the full price all at once without hesitation. He could afford it. Jess was wearing new clothes at school now, and the bullying had gone down, but still hadn't disappeared. Before she knew it, 6 months had passed since she'd been living with Charlie. It was nearing the end of the school year. It was Jessica's last year of high school, which meant that along with her exams, prom was also approaching. She was afraid everyone was going to call her a beggar or a Cinderella again. Jessica couldn't decide which was worse. Her fears worsened when Sarah humiliated her once again with, "Hey beggar girl, the ball is coming up, Cinderella. What are you going to do?" She always used those two insults at the same time, and that was what set her apart from the others. She was the worst of them all. Boss fight. There was that voice from the video games again. She was going to the ball with Charlie. She didn't even have a backup plan. Wait a second, what's this? This just in, Charlie was the backup plan. Originally, she wanted to go with Kevin, but Kevin went with Emily. She was, of course, looking forward to grades and deciding her future. But other than that, she was just a normal teenage girl. Not a teenage robot, not a dream pixie girl, and not even the heroine of some vampire and werewolf romance novel. Jessica Parker was very ordinary, and the only trait everyone else noticed about her was her detachment from the world. In other words, she possessed an IQ capable of diminishing the high intellectuality of all of Colorado. Everyone hated her. The day before the ball. Preparations were in full swing. Jessica paced from side to side, tossing the dresses Charlie had bought around while he waited for her to come out, sitting in the other room. Finally, the perfect dress. Jessica opened the door, and Charlie bore witness to a beautiful view. Wait, wasn't that the first dress you tried on? Whatever. After these words, they kissed passionately. Prom day. This time, Jessica agreed to let Charlie drive up to the school gate. They'll see him anyway. It doesn't matter anymore. Today is the last day. Just have fun. She and Charlie got out of the car and headed towards the school. The prom was held in the gymnasium. What do you think? Yes, they were rich, but they weren't the president or even Quentin Tarantino. It all looked very pretty, partly due to the fact that the lights were off and the room was lit with dim balloons. When Jess and Charlie entered, everyone froze. One guy even threw up. It was the first time he'd ever seen someone so rich. Jess didn't understand what was going on, but the situation became clearer when Sarah came up to her. "Why didn't you tell me you were dating the son of a billionaire right away? It would have made things so much easier." Sarah nudged her with her shoulder. Jessica thought that if she had the same wealth as her classmates, they would have treated her differently. But even now that everyone knows who her fiancé was, nothing had changed. The ring on her finger didn't change anything. Perhaps Jessica should have changed the way she looked at the world. The day before, while Jessica was in the bathroom, Charlie searched for his passport. And while going through his jacket pockets, he found the ring box. Totally forgot. Imagine the surprise on Jess's face when she stepped out of the bathroom to see her boyfriend with the ring in his hands. They looked at each other in silence with their mouths open. The surprise turned to awkwardness. Will you marry me?" he said without thinking, but his girlfriend's answer surprised him. Yes! In his mind, he tried to reassure himself. The date today probably fits. 6 is a lucky number, right? And so, their relationship was taken to a new level. Back to the ball again. Jessica didn't want to ruin their night, so she decided to tell him that she knew everything now. We'll talk about it tomorrow. She danced and partied while Charlie held her punch. The evening was going well. Sure, she felt cheated, but she knew he had his reasons for keeping secrets. After the ball, they returned home. Charlie realized that the jig was up and waited silently for Jessica to explode. It didn't take long. "You lied to me. You told me you sit at home all day because you can't get a job, and it turns out it's because you have too much wealth. A man can't be that rich. It's not normal." Charlie was tormented by guilt. He knew what he had done was wrong. He clearly expressed his feelings to Jessica. "I know what I did was wrong, and I do feel guilty." She was the one who loved him, not his father. She couldn't trust girls. There was no particular reason for that. No one had ever dumped him or cheated on him. His love life was successful, and before he had met Jessica, he changed girls on a regular basis, once a month. The reason he behaved this way was probably because of his mother, or rather the lack of one. There aren't any other logical explanations, so let's consider this one and forgive Charlie because he has his own demons. But he had one last card up his sleeve. "But I'm rich. Very, very rich. I'm sorry." After these words, Jessica forgave Charlie, but she still felt some mistrust towards him for a while. She felt as if he was an imposter, like from Among Us. Fortunately, any and all mistrust she felt towards him eventually got smoothed out by the zeros in his bank account. Their relationship advanced to a new level. One time, Charlie accidentally called her his wife, and their marriage lasted 44 years up until Charlie introduced Jessica to his father.